In this video, I'm breaking down all my favorite equipment for training for my first HYROX and first marathon ever. Everything from running shoes, workout shoes, watches, supplements, and even all the nitty-gritty things that help me to recover and improve my performance. So let's jump right into it and see what's my favorite year for training for my first ever HYROX. Starting off with obviously the most interesting stuff, and that's the running shoes. I have a few multiple running shoes depending on what I want to use them for. I have long run shoes, which are my HYROX Nova Blast 5. I love these shoes. They're super cushioned, but also not too cushioned because personally, for my preference, I like feeling some sort of contact and having some sort of responsiveness. I don't like it when it's too cushioned, like you have sometimes in the On shoes or even in the new Brooks one, I think with the Glycerin Max. And super nice comfortable shoes, but personally for my preference just too cushioned, and the Nova Blast gives me this nice balance between being able to have some responsiveness while also having a good enough cushion to really help my joints and tendons when going on those long runs. Then for my faster runs, my tempo runs, not intervals, I like to use the new Adizero Evo SL. Love how the shoe looks, love how the shoe feels. It's a great daily trainer. Can't even recommend it enough. I'm probably gonna even get a second pair. But for now, that's my shoe for tempo runs or some easy shorter runs. Then I also have the New Balance Fuel Rebel 4, which I also love for my tempo runs. Don't use them that often anymore, but also great shoes for tempo runs. Really responsive, really lightweight. Can highly recommend as well. And for my intervals, I like to use the HYROX Sonic Blast. It's quite a recent shoe. They released it for the Tokyo World Athletics Games, and I received the shoes, to be totally transparent, from HYROX themselves while working for a project for them. But honestly, I love the shoe. It has a carbon plate in it, which until now I actually didn't realize. I just had to research it so I don't tell you guys some bullshit. And yes, it has a carbon plate into it. It feels great and amazing for intervals. I even used it for the half marathon that I did run in Munich. So great shoes for competition and racing as well. Maybe not as good as some of the other super shoes, but also considering it's only 180 euros. It's not really in the super shoe category, but it's a great trainer for interval sessions or even if you want to use it for racing. Coming right to the next thing, which basically is living 24/7 on my body, and that's my Garmin watch. I'm using a Garmin watch, but you can use anything else, Polar, Coros. I think as long as they track your heart rate, your speed, your GPS, and all the bells and whistles you need for improving your training and reading your data and analytics, I feel like there's nothing you can go much wrong with nowadays. All of the watches are very accurate and very well designed. So I'm using the Garmin Forerunner 965. It's the older version, not the newest one they just released, but it works totally fine and I used it back then, especially for my triathlon and Ironman training. So I needed a watch with a multi-sport function. But if you don't use all of these things, you can simply buy any other of the Forerunner versions that are a lot cheaper. And if you just use it for running or HYROX or strength training, they're more than enough. But also one important thing that is really important, that's also why I choose Garmin. Maybe Polar is also doing this. Coros is doing an armband, which I like a lot. It's pretty good. I'm just not sure how accurate it is, but I'm also using the Garmin Pro heart rate monitor. Loving this one, using it for years. Never had a problem with it. So I can highly recommend that. And it just helps me to have a more accurate level of my heart rate so I can dial in my training accordingly. Sometimes it's also really important to harness the skill of not just being too data driven and also work on feel. So that's also a very important skill to learn. So don't always rely on your watch or your heart rate monitor and just simply listen to yourself. How do you actually feel? Especially training with heart rate as a target can be really tricky sometimes because the heart rate can be influenced by so many things. Maybe you had just one cup coffee too much, maybe you went to bed too late, or you just had a big meal just right before your workout. So just simply keep that in mind. Yes, heart rate is a very good indicator that you're pushing not too hard or not too little, but always listen to your body and just go off feels as well. And then maybe one thing that most people wouldn't think about when they talk about running, but it's a mini band. I love this mini band and honestly, I'm using it before every run. Yes, you heard me. I'm using it before every run. I'm personally, anyway, very meticulous when it comes to stretching and dynamic warm-ups before running. So I've always make sure to get some stretches in, some activations, and some running drills as well. But also one important thing, that's where the mini band comes in. I like to activate my glutes. A lot of people have problems really using their glutes when running, and it leads to very uneconomical running forms. So the mini band helps you just with some simple side steps or some kickbacks just to activate the glute so you can make sure that all the muscles are firing properly so you have a very good running economy and also reduce the risk of injury. Very small investment, but I can highly recommend it. Now we were talking a lot about running, but let's be totally honest, in HYROX even, running makes 50% of the whole race itself. But coming to the gym or like the workout HYROX specific side of things now. And that is also starting with shoes. For shoes, it's basically the same almost as my running shoes. For my running training or HYROX running training, I'm using the same shoe rotation as I mentioned earlier. But when it comes to HYROX specific workouts that include a lot of dynamic or active movements, let's say running, but also even just when it's sled push or sled pulls, I like to also use the Adizero Evo SL. Great shoes because they have amazing traction. They're not too cushioned, so they have some sort of stability. But when it comes to stability, when I know I'm gonna have heavier lifts and I'm working on my strength, I like to use the Reebok Nano X4. These are more traditional weightlifting shoes, so I would definitely not recommend running in them or jumping in them, but they are great for, like I said, heavier loads when you want to make sure that you have the most stable footing so you don't injure yourself. So these two are basically in my HYROX rotation. That's also why I said I might want to pick up another pair of the Adizero Evo SL. So that's just going to last a bit longer. Another thing I talked about in a recent video is having a bike setup, especially also when it comes to HYROX training. You might be wondering, why is that even necessary? And yes, you're right, it might not be necessary. I honestly found for myself it's a great way to increase volume without necessarily putting too much heavy loading on tendons and bones. So for example, on easier off days where I usually would only have one workout, I can also simply add another bike workout session without increasing the risk of injury too much. But with that being said, I'm also just fortunate that I have a bike setup already. From my recent Ironman prep, I'm using currently the Wahoo Kicker Core. It's their core version or standard version. It is really nice because it is an erg mode, so if you pair it with Swift, you can simply just lock in to a certain wattage and like certain training zone. Let's say you're working on threshold, you can simply put the erg mode on and the trainer takes care of the rest. So this is really a nice way of just simply locking in, maybe putting on some TV, listening to a podcast, reading, or even getting some work done. But yes, of course, like I said, if you don't have that option, a great way to increase your volume without risking an injury is also you simply can go get to the gym, do a spinning session there, or use a C2 bike, assault bike, row, or ski erg. But if you want to learn more about intensity stacking and also ways how you can improve your HYROX performance and also increase your overall training volume without risking an injury, I've made a very detailed video about it, just a chill chat. So after this video, if you feel free to hop by and learn something about that as well. With all this training, we often also like to overlook the recovery side of things. But I feel like that is actually the most important thing of them all. We often hear that you have overtraining issues, but in my opinion, 80% of the times we say we're overtrained, we're just under-recovered. And when it comes to recovery, I have a few certain tools at home that really help me to improve my recovery so I can push harder the next workout. First of all, I think that's nothing new. It's a foam roller, which I usually like to roll my calves. Sometimes I'm having very sensitive calves, so personally I just like to stick to the hamstrings, the glutes, and also especially the quads. The quads are quite tight for me a lot, and that's also really helping me to reduce knee pain or knee problems. But also I feel like the biggest game changer is like a lacrosse ball. It's not necessarily a proper lacrosse ball. I just call it the way because I have no clue how to call it, but it's basically a massage ball. And I'm using that literally every day to roll my feet. This just feels amazing. And also your feet are the first point of contact for every step you take. So give them some love, make sure that they are nicely massaged, but also at the same time, obviously train them. But that's probably a whole nother video for itself. Other than foam rolling, I also have a red light. I think I bought it for like 30 euros on Amazon. It's quite a cheap one, but also I made sure that the light at least itself is a good quality because obviously you don't want to get burned because it can get pretty warm and pretty hot. But especially sometimes I'm having problems with my tendons, and there's where warmth actually helps a lot more than cold sometimes. So I personally like to use the red light after or before workouts. Sometimes when I feel like I have a little niggles, my muscles feel tight, it's a really great way to increase blood flow and simply give some warmth to the muscles and tendons just to let them recover faster and also prepare them for the next workout. It doesn't need to be excessive, like you have sometimes people using these really amazing red light panels for waking up and giving some really heat exposure to the body, which obviously would be great having an infrared sauna at home, but let's be realistic here. I think a small light will do it for the beginning as well, which then you can use for localized situations to literally, like I said, enhance blood flow at simple muscle groups or tendons when you feel like you need to. And probably the most basic thing for recovery is simply a nice workout mat. Doing mobility every single day, doing stretching after every run in a HYROX session is literally the biggest game changer. Yes, there's counter studies that say static stretching has no effect. Yes, this might be true, but it's also not considering who is doing it. I feel like, especially for people that never stretched before or don't stretch regularly, doing static stretching is still a huge benefit. If you get to that point where static stretching is not mattering anymore, you're probably anyway doing a lot of other things right that really make this unnecessary. So if you're struggling with flexibility, at least do some static stretching. If you can find the motivation, do some mobility, some active dynamic stretching. Just do something for like just 5 to 10 minutes every day and a short stretching routine after every run and workout. Trust me, you will thank me later, especially in 10 years down the line. I know sometimes not the most fun thing, but if you want to keep doing what you love, just make sure that you give some love to your body back. So if you're also interested in having a mobility or stretching routine, let me know in the comments and I can definitely do that for you. I'm definitely not like the most flexible or mobile or stretching instructor, but maybe that makes it also more relatable because I found ways how to incorporate it into my daily routines and daily lives without making it too boring and too jarring, so I can actually focus on the things that I really love, which is running and HYROX training. Okay, let's talk about supplements. If you haven't figured out by now, supplements and nutrition is one of the things that really interests me and I can totally geek out about them. So let's start with the basics. And one thing I really like to use on a daily basis multiple times is whey protein. Yes, I know. What about your liver? Are you not scared your liver's gonna clog and all of these things? If you still believe that, welcome to the 21st century. There's countless studies out there, very well considered studies, not lobbyist studies that are from supplement industries or any sort of things like that. They're actually really proving there is no effects on your liver. I mean, how much protein do you use to your liver? I don't know. Sorry for using this wording, but I'm just tired of people still believing this. It's even educated people really believe this myth, and it's one of the myths I thought we left behind for quite a long time. Yes, if you're like a normal average person, not really working out a lot, totally fine. You definitely don't need protein. But if you're working out quite a lot hectically, especially HYROX, which is a high intensity sport where you not only use endurance, but also your muscles, and you're depleting glycogen and your muscle glycogen, and also in general, like just giving your muscle a lot of micro traumas, you need to recover properly. And for recovering properly, you at least need 1.5 kilos or 2 kilos per body weight of protein to recover properly. And if you want to try to get that through natural food, please, by all means, do so. I would love that for you. But to be totally transparent, I'm eating quite healthy. Like I have a very well diverse diet and rich diet. I mean, you saw in the last video talking about a full day of eating. It's basically not impossible, but it would be such a hustle. And honestly, sometimes you just don't feel like eating that much protein. So I like to use whey protein. I think I never actually drink whey protein shakes just by itself. I like to mix them into my oats, my smoothies, and simply just maybe my yogurt, just to get a few extra grams of protein. So this is one little tip I can recommend. Sorry for ramping on and making this such a long point, but I feel like it's really important. It's one of the basic things that you just simply need to make sure you're doing. If you're not eating enough protein while training so intensely, you're literally having a recipe for disaster. Same if not eating enough carbs. But if you have a tool like I say carb powder and whey protein, then please use it honestly and don't be scared. There's like a lot of studies out there nowadays that really debunk these myths. So if you haven't heard it by now, it's not true. So coming back actually to the second point I just mentioned, carb powder. And for a long time I used the German brand Ministry, which is an amazing tasting brand, but I like to try new things from time to time. So at the moment I'm using Precision Fuel Hydration, and so far I can really say I really enjoy their products because they have a carb powder mix without electrolytes, and then they have a carb powder mix with electrolytes. I'm using the one without electrolytes at the moment because it helps me sometimes if I, especially when on winter here in Germany, it's cold, I'm not sweating that much, so I have more control over dialing my sodium intake. So for example, if I go to the gym or go for a run or for a bike session and I just want carbs without sodium, I'm simply using just a carb mix from Precision Fuel Hydration. Tastes delicious, really easy to digest. So I like to usually use that for either very intense gym sessions or sometimes when I go into my, like I said, bike sessions to supplement some more volume training. Then I'm also using their gels at the moment. I have the caffeinated version and the basic version. I also used other gels before, and so far this is the one personally I can handle the best. I love the taste because it's very neutral, but at least it still has some sort of taste to it. I can't really describe it. Really easy to digest, really easy to get down. No problems with my gut, which I definitely had with some other products, and I love to use the gels only for runs when I go longer than an hour or really intense, like let's say interval session or tempo run sessions, and maybe I didn't have much time to eat a proper meal before. But also make sure to just not overfuel. But high carb fueling is the future, especially listen to David Roach. He's a very, very interesting coach and also athlete himself that really is living in the studies himself, but also not only on the papers, but also puts into test. And he's one of the most successful ultra trail runners at the age of 37 and literally kickstarted his career just a few years ago. So it's really interesting to listen to him. If you haven't checked him out yet, definitely recommend doing so. There's a lot of things to learn if you want to improve your fueling. Another thing I use daily is creatine. I know creatine often is associated with like strength increasing, but also one benefit that came out more recently is also the neurological benefit. So personally, I'm using 0.1 gram per body weight, so which for me is at the moment 80 kilos, so 0.8 grams every morning. That's by rule of thumb, and I'm using it for 10 years straight now. Never had a problem, feeling great. So I'm using creatine for a long time. It's not a necessity, especially if you focus on endurance, but especially also when it comes to HYROX training, it probably can have some good benefits. And then we come to collagen. Collagen is one of my most recent pickups. And honestly, I've never actually thought I would use collagen because for me, it was always associated with skin health, hair health, make your skin glow, all the beauty products. But actually, there have been some really good studies. I first time heard it, I think, in the Huberman podcast. Wow, what a surprise. Probably a lot of people did. That it actually has very good benefits for your tendons and ligaments and in general, just your bone structures. I, for the last weeks, experienced a bit of nagging and problems with my tendons in the calf, and I was actually able to fix it, obviously, with some good strength training, resting, and just making sure everything is fine down there, going to the physio. But I thought, why not try some collagen and see if it actually increases the collagen production or like the tendon reproduction, the tendon flow, just getting the tendon fixed or faster again. There's actually a lot of recent studies out there that show that if you take collagen in combination with vitamin C 30 to 60 minutes before working out and before loading the tendons, ligaments, and joints, that it actually increases collagen synthesis by 2x, which obviously vice versa means it really helps to restructure the tendon, ligament, and bone structure way faster. So, I mean, I'm doing great at the moment. I'm not having any niggles anymore. Like I said, I've been doing focused strength training, physio work, and all these kind of things, while also taking collagen. So I can definitely not say collagen is the magic factor, but I will give it a try and give you an update in the future. One thing I can say, it's quite interesting and quite nostalgic. It does taste a bit like these old whey powders. If you remember, then I think it was the Optimum Nutrition ones. The first time I drank whey a few years ago, that's basically how it tastes. It's transparent. It's kind of weird. But yeah, that's probably a story for another time. But there you have it. These are all the things I'm currently using to train for my first ever HYROX and full marathon. It's not too many, but yes, it adds up quite a while, especially when it comes to the shoe rotation. I want to just have a little disclaimer. I mean, there's a lot of videos out there nowadays that really make you believe that you have to have this, you have to have that. And honestly, all the things I just mentioned today, especially the shoes, I didn't pick up all at once. I collected all these things year over year, prep after prep for different things. So one thing I really don't want you to do or get out of this video is having the urge to simply go out and buy all these things now. If you feel like this might work for you and it might apply for you, yes, please do so. I'm trying to help you improve your performance and get better in your HYROX or marathon or whatever prep you're in. But at the same time, I also really want to caution you to not listen to everyone out there trying to sell you stuff. There's also no affiliate links or anything in my videos. I generally just want you to think for yourself, what do you actually genuinely need? What could actually make a benefit? This is what works for me, but it doesn't mean it's going to work for you. So with that being said, thanks for watching and thanks for sticking around for so long until the end of the video. You're a real one, and I'm happy to have you here on this journey with me. If you want to watch another video of mine, please feel free to do so here. If not, I catch you next week in the next video. Much love and peace.